fuel, give me fire, give me double shot inside. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me double shot inside. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me double shot inside.
Nestled at the northern tip of the Carolina Sandhill sits Richmond County, North Carolina, the home to one of the most legendary short tracks in the Tar Heel State. Hi, hello, and good evening, race fans. Welcome to Rockingham, North Carolina, as we bring you into today's coverage of race number 8 of season number 8 of the NR2003 Fuel Grand National Series, the SRI Performance 400. Here at the Rockingham Speedway, welcome everybody to tonight's Intercast on the North American Sim Racing Network's coverage of the Fuel Grand National Series. Trey Wright doing a solo shot here. Caleb Rose being given the week off, and we are here at the Rockingham Speedway for 99 laps. Kenny Campos is going to go upside down, and we apologize for the stream going out a little bit later than we anticipated. Some technical difficulties on our side of things, and sometimes the audio issues are as simple as the audio being off on your computer even though you thought you turned it back on. But we're about to exit practice here, about 2 minutes and 13 seconds to go here in practice before we'll get things into qualifying. No surprise to see Apollo Hyde top of the charts in that Orange Juice 100 machine. She's been stringing a little bit in that automobile, trying to get that 100 machine Mazda its first win of the season for your current points leader. Currently, it's a 23.31 second time, and that is a couple hundredths of a second faster than newcomer, the 55 of Nick Gunther, trying to see where he is on the grid in that 55 machine, and that SPS car making his fuel debut, coming over from the Maverick Racing League to the Fuel Racing League here tonight. He's currently second on the board. Crystal Bennett, Drew Fast, and Nikki Conti rounding out the top 5 in the point standings right now is Trek Talker touching the bank in a little bit more than you would want to as Gunther's going to come down the pit lane. Plenty of new cars. It's Tate Dorsey, no surprise to see him jumping the server in the last couple of seconds. And that should give us exactly 21 cars. Not sure if Ike Durbin is going to be here or not. Or rather, if Dunn LaPrade, I should say, is going to be here or not, as the number 84 of Crystal Bennett in the Clown Vomit. Number 84 Charger. Of course, today is April Fool's, but it's also at a fantastic short track here in rural North Carolina, here in Richmond County, as Connor Edwards zooming his way around as well. But tonight is going to be one of those races where tire wear is absolutely king. We take a look at the race analysis, and your eyes don't deceive you. We expect 2 to 4 seconds of tire fall off on a run for these drivers, and usually these guys can do about 40 to 43 laps on a full tank of gas, although Apollo Hyde was able to stretch that out to about a 50-lap run, so it'll be about 50 to 53 laps here on a tank of gas. But this track is unique as it's oblong on either side, or asymmetrical on either side of the speedway. In turns 1 and 2, it's a flatter 22 degrees of banking compared to the steeper 25 degrees in turns 3 and 4. Pit road also a little bit wonky. Tire wear is going to be the name of the game, as it always is here at the Rockingham Speedway. But we've officially crossed into the final 5 races. Final 3 races, if I'm not mistaken. Now the final 4 races on between numbers. I never claimed to be great at numbers, as Tyler Stallhood's going to go for a spin in that DuPont Rainbow Warriors car. Travas's going to hit him, and now we've only got a couple of moments left to go here before qualifying will kick off. It's really how everything typically shakes out here, as we are just about ready to go here for Q. There's Vincenzo Focusato ditching the Momo Mazda 37 for a green and white blank number 37 machine, as we're off and running towards qualifying for the practice results. No surprise to see Apollo Hyde and Nick Gunther top of the charts here in practice. But overall, going into qualifying, it's going to be a fun one here, of course. Like we said, just under 100 miles here for the SRI Performance 100. But the point standings after a wild race last week at the Fuel Motorsport Park. An asphalt race sandwiched between 2 dirt races. We got the Land of Legends Raceway next week here on the North American Sim Racing Network. And of course, we had Fuel MP last week. We got Rockingham sandwiched in between. But taking a look at the point standings, coming into race number 8 of the season, Apollo Hyde increasing that points lead, or rather Vincenzo Focusato closing the gap just a smidge behind that 100 machine. Those two finishing 1 and 2, Focusato and then Hyde at last week's Fuel Volunteer 100. RJ Bishop has fallen back a little bit. Same thing with Emi Schizzato and Ike Durbin. The top 5 pretty much remaining the same, but it was the bottom 5 in the point standings that really got shaken up, with Taylor Stolworthy up 2 spots after a decent run last week. Tyler Stallhood fell down to 7th. Grant Warren with a pretty good run, as was Blake Warren, so both Warren brothers inside the top 10 for the first time this season, and Trek Togger in the middle of that Warren brothers sandwich. Kenny Campos finds himself inside the top 12 for the opening time in season number 8, and Crystal Bennett fell all the way down to 12th. Way out of the championship fight, and realistically things are likely going to come down to between Apollo Hyde and RJ Bishop. With Bishop, he does have 1 win on the season, so that graphic not entirely correct. Meant to change a couple things around in the wins category, but overall the points and the differential are current and accurate. And it's just going to be one of those races here tonight, as it always is. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. Apollo Hyde top of the charts with a 23.39 compared to Nick Gunther, and actually Vincenzo Focusato with a 23.38, blasting Apollo Hyde by a 1/10 of a second, 11 1/1000ths of a second, if you will, for the pole position so far. We got 21 cars in the server, and with 30 seconds to go in queue, 3 of them have not taken a time yet. Some other particular drivers up inside of the top 5. Nick Gunther in third, and R.J. Bishop and Nicky Conti currently rounded out the top 5. But overall, some really top talent up inside the top 10. Grant Warren, Tate Dorsey, they've always been really good with qualifying. And with 5 seconds to go in queue, it looks like we're going to have 3 drivers that failed to put down a time. It's Crystal Bennett, Connor Edwards, and Corbin Wentz, as well as Bud Kerrang. So, well, the 16 cars that put down a time of the 21 cars that will be on the grid here this evening for the SRI Performance 100. Vincenzo Focusato grabbing that pole position in that number 100 machine. As we go here into happy hour for the next 5 minutes. Here you see the qualifying results on the top left-hand side of your screen. Vincenzo Focusato and Apollo Hyde are going to be that front row here for tonight's 100-mile race. And Gunther and R.J. Bishop are going to be back there in row 2, and Nicky Conti and Ike Turpin will round out the starting 6 here at Rockingham as we get a good look at everybody. Some of the other cars we didn't really see. There is Tala Aziz back here in the Ally number 14 machine. Nicky Conti back in that Sprite number 85, a throwback for the driver of that 85 for Nicky Conti. Driving, I think last saw that car. I can't remember the last time we've seen that car not in the Sportsman Winston 98 body. But it's a beautiful looking Mustang. Same thing with that Kroger Thomas Brands number 48 machine of R.J. Bishop. And this is absolutely my favorite livery of the entire night. Blake Warren in that Brock Beard last car. Number 12 machine. Throwing it back to J.D. McDuffie in that Ford for Warren Wentz Racing. They're going to get a great shot of it here off of turn number 2. We'll see what he is able to do in that 12 Ford, as Warren Wentz Racing pretty much coming out in full force here tonight. No surprise to see Rich Roy back in the Kodak colors for Millennium Autosport. They've got 3 of their cars in the grid tonight. Emmy Schizzato back in the Connor Zillage 97 machine. Trek Togger and the Suburban Cowgirl Steakhouse Camaro, and Kenny Campos throwing it back to Jaws, DW himself, Darrell Waltrip. It's not the official throwback race of the season here at Rockingham, but of course with a legendary track like this, you're going to see a lot of throwback schemes. Tate Dorsey in that Nebraska Cornhuskers Ford is going to park it up on the outside. But plenty of good-looking schemes. It's Corbin Wentz in that 88, the Great Divide Ford Mustang for Warren Wentz Racing. He's got Campos right behind him with 2 minutes to go here before we'll get things underway for tonight's 100-miler in the Sandhills of North Carolina. And of course, being at this track in person last year for Rockingham's return, certainly say that it is a joy to be. It was a joy to be there last year, and it was an absolute joy to be calling these races. Of course, we had the Mission Barbecue Cup Series race here at Rockingham a couple of days ago. Brennan Wilmington winning that for the MBCS's 5th ever foray to the Carolina Sandhills. Drew Fast went around off of turn number 2. Turn 2 is really where we're going to be seeing a lot of trouble for these drivers all evening long, especially on these longer runs. Like we were talking about, these tires are going to wear out rapidly with this older version of Rockingham from back in 2003. Of course, nowadays, you know, with how abrasive the surface would be here in 2026, it would definitely be a lot more abrasive, but overall, we're going to see these guys really slowing down. Of course, pole time was about 23.4 seconds, whatever Focusato ran. He ran 23.37. We're probably going to see lap times probably down in the 25 to 26 range on average. Of course, we expect the caution flag to come out often, hopefully not 7 times or more than 7 times like we've seen in a couple of races here this year, but overall, looking to be a blast as it always is. And of course, can't thank anybody enough for tuning into tonight's broadcast. Every single broadcast here on the North American Sim Racing Network. There is an announcement for Friday's Sportsman broadcast, as There might be a point of contention whether that broadcast will go up for race number 2 from the Alley Raceway. Whether that race is going to be either tape delayed or live, as I might have a scheduling conflict that night that would unfortunately conflict with things. So, talk about things. We'll see what race would potentially get rescheduled for the Fuel Sportsman. Of course, we're worried about the Fuel Grand National right here and right now, as we are ready to go in just a couple of moments for tonight's 100-mile race from the Rockingham Speedway. We're about to go downstairs here in just a couple of moments. 99 laps here at Rockingham. Glad to have everybody aboard, as we always do. Just making sure everything is nice and refreshed over on our side of things. Got about 15 seconds before we send things down on the back straightaway trackside for the most famous words in motorsports, but Vincenzo Focusato looking for 2 consecutive wins in that Mazda number 37 machine. Unsponsored with no decals here this weekend. Doesn't mean he's not ready to go racing here, as they're on the back straightaway. We're going to send things downstairs to turn them on and grid them up.
To your car.
Race number 8 of the season here for the Fuel Grand National Series, live in the NESRN. It's the SRI Performance 400, the SRI Performance 100, I should say, from the Rockingham Speedway. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Christopher Bell got the wall, but obviously that has not slowed him down. And now Alan Cavana limping his way towards you is Austin Cindric. Boy, as we watched him come off turn number 2, that car just hung a left and shot down on the skid pad there. Tried to save the car the best he could, and came, like Mike said, just in slight contact with the inside retaining wall. He's on pit road right now. Kyle Larson, problems early in the vent. Christopher Bell got the wall, but obviously that has not slowed him down. And now Alan Cavana limping his
Drivers, start your engines!
Ready to go racing once again here at the Rockingham Speedway. Vincenzo Focusato sits on the pole position in that Millennium Autosport Mazda. Trying to look for 2 wins in a row here at the Fuel Grand National level, and Apollo Hyde sits on the outside pole in that Orange Juice Mazda. An Orange Juice Subaru, I should say. Subaru versus Mazda with a couple of Chevrolets behind them as we get ready for 100 laps here in the Carolina Sandhills. Pace car is down the pit lane. They're heading towards the restart zone. Green flag out and away. 21 cars across the start-finish line. Let's do some rocking and rolling at Rockingham. Here we go. Well, you couldn't ask for a better start for Apollo Hyde, as here comes R.J. Bishop, a slingshot around the corner of turn number 4. How about that for a textbook outside maneuver, and R.J. Bishop, your Daytona back straightaway winner from earlier on this season, going for the race lead. Hyde looking right behind him as everybody will file out, single file behind these drivers. RJ running that higher outside lane like he's accustomed to in the 48. A little bit of a blinkage there out of that 100 machine. And Focusato just didn't get going whatsoever on the initial start. He's dropped back to 4th. And Nick Gunther in his first ever fuel race up inside the top 5. Focusato's actually dropped back to 3rd, my mistake. Bishop on the outside lane running really well right now, as pretty much everybody got going. Actually, Bud Kerrang DNS'd on the start there, so he will finish in 21st with the provisional. Gunther to the inside of the 37, and Focusato trying to get back down to the inside, but Rockingham is a single groove track with this old version. Not a whole lot of grip on the outside lane, of course. R.J. Bishop saying, I don't give a rip roaring about grip. I'm ready to get rock hard at Rockingham. And he has got the lead. He has led all 4 laps so far today. Apollo Hyde trying to bide her time, but also fighting that 2-front war with Nick Gunther, who's made his way up to 3rd. And how about Tate Dorsey? This isn't a track you typically see Tate up at the front end of the field, but you know what? He qualified well, qualified inside the top 10, and here he is all the way up inside the top 5. Focusato was slipped back. Grant Warren into the outside wall, a little bit off the 4. No harm, no foul. And the top 7 have broken away from the rest of the field. Conti, Schizato, and Stolworthy rounding out the top 10. Kenny Campos runs in 11th. R.J. Bishop, Rich Roy in 12th. Blake Warren, Tala Aziz, and Drew Fast rounding out the top 15 as of right now. Tyler Stolhood, Crystal Bennett. As we had one car go around, that was Tyler Stolhood. Single car spin down the front straightaway. He pancaked that outside wall like he was at IHOP. And that right front might be down. It is down, so that is a lot of damage to the fuel director. And, well, I don't know, he's going to be limbering as the rest of the field is going to fly on by, and that is such a tough break for the fuel director. Got a right front tire down right at the end or the beginning of the back straightaway. He's just going to hold the hammer down on the inside and pray. And it looks like he's trying to take, there's no access road on the inside, but he is just trying to limp that DuPont Subaru back down the pit area, and a very tough start to the race for Stolhood, who was running outside of the top 10 at the time. And we got cars going around. We got cars scattered all over the place. That's Schizato. And R.J. Bishop from the race lead has gone around, and the yellow flag flies. We're so focused on Stolhood going around that we had our race leader go around. Well, welcome everybody to your first race here on the NESRN. Glad to have everybody aboard under our first caution of the night. And R.J. Bishop, as well as Emmy Schizato, she has got a right front tire down. She's going to pancake that forward into the wall. And R.J. is going to go from the front of the field with all that clean air to the back. And Nick Gunther is going to inherit the race lead after all of that. He's just going to pull up right behind the pace car. And he is likely going to lead this field down the pit area after 8 laps under the green flag. Gunther getting his first lap led in a fuel racing automobile. Blake Warren is going to stay out for an extra lap. He's going to get a lap led. He'll probably come down next time by, would be my guess, but everybody else screaming for Mr. Feelgoods is Tyler Stolhood. I feel bad for Tyler. He can't pit this lap legally because he is a lap down. He's going to come down anyway. Not a great pit entry for Gunther down to the inside of that SPS Mazda. 2 Mazdas inside the podium right now. And, of course, 4 Goodyear tires going all the way around that 55 car. And he will be out and away. It's going to be close there between him and the 100, but he's going to beat out Apollo Hyde for that top spot off of the pit area. But taking a look at what happened going into turn number 1, and on the initial look, that is not good. RJ out of turn number 4, the rear end of that car, it just simply got, actually, I'm not sure if he had some sort of mechanical issue or what happened on that 48, but he gets into Ike Durbin, comes back down the track, and I think Emmy just hopped on the brakes a little bit hard and spun that 97 car around, and well, that is not what you want from the race lead, as RJ trying to keep that car in one piece. And we'll take a look at the onboard and see if there was anything in particular that happened. If there was maybe trouble with the shifter, or I don't know, because it wouldn't be the first time we've had somebody in trouble this week based on something or other here, but overall, once we get this queued up here, take a look and try and hear what happened. Yeah, that is, I don't know if maybe 4th gear potentially broke, and Schizato just pumped the brakes a little too hard. That's going to be a tough break for Durbin, who got up into the outside wall after all of that, but Well, then, that is not what we expected that caution to be, and that is a really tough break for RJ there, as he will come back down the pit lane. In fact, a couple of the drivers will come down as well, but Nick Gunther inherits the race lead after all of that, and he's going to get a couple of laps led in that SPS number 55. Mazda and Subaru on the front row once again, and Vinfo Casado falling all the way back. He's going to restart on that outside lane after falling deep in the field out of the pits. Nothing really on the chat to see what happened there with RJ, but he is, I don't know, he may have lost first gear because he is just trying to get to the end there, but he is going to restart from the tail end of the field. But here we go. Get this race restarted, 86 laps to go. Nick Gunther and Apollo Hyde, your front row, going back through the gears here at Rockingham, with Tate Dorsey and Taylor Stolworthy right behind them. Green flag back out, and a pretty good equal jump. I'd say give that in favor to Gunther. He's going to clear the 100 out for the corner. Dorsey now up inside the podium, right now matching his career best here in the Grand National Series. Still a lot of race to go, plenty of meat on the bone for this race, but Taylor Stolworthy hot on his heels. Nicky Conti hit the inside lip there. We got 3 wide back in here as Conti is going to slip on back a couple of positions. Same thing with Drew Fast. Ike Durbin is going to say thank you very much. He's going to get the 2-for-1 Wednesday night April Fool's special. Corbin Wentz, a little slideways coming out of turn number 2. He's able to hold on to it, and now everybody will get into the single file groove. And we'll see what Bishop is able to do, trying to make up as much ground as he can. He'll get around the 17 and the 0-2. With Wentz down to his inside, a little blinkage there from the 0-2 of Connor Edwards. And RJ just trying to chip away as much as he can off the back end of the field. Didn't get the greatest of restarts in the world. Tyler Stallhood back on the lead lap after being the only car that was a lap down, and trouble off of turn number 4. Drew Fast goes sideways off of the corner. I believe, yeah, well, that'll definitely bring out the caution flag once again. Campos, Warren, Bishop involved, and our second caution flag is out and away. And we got to control our camera here that was still on. Well, that was certainly a pickle. Drew Fast broke sideways off of 4. And just like that, we're back under the caution flag here for yellow flag number 2 being displayed. And that is going to shake things up in the back end of the field a little bit, but Gunther is going to continue to lead. This time by will clear RJ Bishop for the most laps led in this race, as Bishop led the opening 8th, spun around from the race lead, and it looks like that only a handful of laps being ran under this run wasn't enough. Fortunately, it is a video game for these guys, so unlimited tires is a thing. We're going to get a couple of guys that will stay out here to get a couple, maybe 1 lap logged, as Connor Edwards is going to get a lap lead bonus point. Trek Togger, he just tried to stay out there at the last second, but here we go. Second 4-tire pit stop of the day for Nick Gunther and Apollo Hyde. Much better in pit entry there for Apollo, and we'll see if anybody is going to elect for a 2-tire stop, or if everybody's going to try and get 4 tires based on track position here. Gunther out and away, and is Apollo going to beat him off of the pit lane? That was pretty darn close. I think Gunther may have had it, and based off of body language there out of that 55 driver, I think that Publix Group SPS car is going to get the race lead. All these guys are going to come down this time around. Well, an interesting start to the race this has been. We'll take a look at what happened here for the biggest wreck so far tonight. And it looks like things just all got started in this battle for 6th back in here. Ooh, little tap there from Durbin off of the banking, and around went Fast. So Some drivers able to save it around. Fast was going around. It was originally just going to be a single car incident, and then Samarka breaks back in here, and Grant Warren just plowed hard into the outside wall. Take one more look at it here on a little bit of a wider angle on what happened to put us under our second yellow of the night. Taking a look here from the spectator cam, you see the 4 up out of the groove, and then we'll take a look back in here at some of the other cars that jammed in. Ooh, RJ slammed on the brakes. Same thing with Warren, or rather Connor Edwards, and he got plowed into by Corbin Wentz, I believe it was. Well, not the start to the race that you'd want for RJ Bishop. He's already 2 for 2 in accidents he's been involved in tonight. Gunther once again leading the race back, and, well, you know what? The inside lane worked on the restart that last time by. Let's try it again. Mike Durbin back down the pit lane. I couldn't tell who that was. That was Blake Warren as all the lap down cars. Actually, Connor Edwards is the only car that's going to be a lap down after all this. He might get back here. Drew Fast is back down in, and everybody that stayed out under that initial come down will make their way down for 4 fresh Mr. Feelgoods, and Nick Gunther will re-get the lead. It was Blake Warren that led a lap that time by. But it's been a pretty solid 1-2 race for then everybody else here between Gunther and Hyde. 5th of the way through the race here tonight so far. Glad to have everybody aboard. And Gunther and Hyde will once again be your front row once we go back through the gears here at Rockingham. And here we go. Green flag back out in the air. This time Hyde gets the jump on the outside lane of Gunther. And now they're a little bit more equal going side by side. Gunther with the inside. He is going to get the ledge, and he'll slide up to keep that spot away from the 100 as they're off and running towards turn number 3. Dorsey trying to hold on in that 6 machine. You got the one of Stolworthy and Crystal Bennett up inside the top 5 for the opening time tonight in that Clown Vomit Dodge Charger. Down the inside of Stolworthy she goes. Those two side by side for 4th on back. And a nice pass on the inside there out of that 84 car. The one car go around down the back straightaway as Blake Warren in the pit area. Something wrong on that 12 machine. He may have had a black flag. So that'll likely put him multiple laps down in that 12, and that's going to be a tough break for that last car on Brock Automobile. Here comes Tate Dorsey to the outside of Apollo Hyde. We got a 3-car battle for 3rd. 2nd, I should say. Go on board with the 84. Apollo Hyde drop back. Yes, she did. So Hyde is dropping back in this battle for 3rd. And here comes Crystal down to the inside of Tate Dorsey. Dorsey on the outside of that Nebraska Mustang. Now Bennett up to 2nd, right behind that 55 car. And you can see just how abrasive the track surface is here as we got to take down our replay graphic, or our green flag graphic, I should say. But just based on how bumpy these cars are all the way moving around, this is such an abrasive surface. Oh, trouble off the pit area. Connor Edwards spins. Did he collect anybody off of turn 2? He did not. That was a near disaster for Edwards, who immediately teleported back to the pits. Nice heads-up move by him, and now Crystal right behind the 85. Those two, nose to tail, nearly going side by side, and Hyde is just trying to hold up a little bit here on this 3rd run of the race. Again, you're just trying to have everybody abuse their tires as much as they can. Gunther setting the tone right now. We got Bennett and Dorsey still in this fervorous battle for 2nd. It's cooled off a little bit now. Crystal wants this race for the lead. Just going to tap the outside wall a little bit. Still in relative lockstep with this 55, who is setting the pace right now. Fastest lap of the race, going up on the board at 24.12. Set by Drew Fast, no surprise there, and no surprise to see Crystal Bennett down to the inside. Quick little slide job block there on the 55. We'll see if Gunther looks for the crossover off of 2. Doesn't peek down just yet. Crystal Bennett will go for the race lead, and she's going to come around to lead her opening lap of the SRI Performance 100. Top 3 breaking away from everybody else, and Apollo Hyde starting to reel in that 6 Mustang just a bit more. Bit by bit, piece by piece, you got Focusato and Stolworthy. Pretty good battle here for 5th. Focusato looking to work the outside lane. A little bit of a wiggle out of that Texaco Charger, but he's no worse for wear. And how about Aziz and Schizato coming back? They're in a battle for 7th right now. How about RJ Bishop back inside the top 10? Bishop up inside 10th that last time by, and he'll remain in 10th for the time being. Still a long way to go in this race, and we saw him get pretty crafty with his pit strategy last week at the Fuel Motorsport Park. Of course, like Durbin wants to forget what happened last week at the Fuel MP. He was going to be in contention for that win, but crashed with 2 laps to go between himself and Tyler Stallwood. Pretty much nixed any opportunity of that. Stallwood still pretty deep in the field, back in 17th, 9 seconds off the pace. Blake Warren still in the pit area. He's still being shown a black flag. Not sure if there was a glitch with his game going on right now, but whatever the case may be, that is certainly, unfortunately, going to put that last car on Brock car in last place, ironically. Tate Dorsey, he had a moment. He is very loose off the corner, and he has used up all of that rubber like he's a college student at Arizona State, or rather a college student at Nebraska. He's used all the rubber on the track. He is very loose out of the corner. Rich Roy diving down to the inside, and this 6 machine might bring out our 3rd caution of the night. Very fast, looking for a little bit of rubber, but now again, with how much these guys have been battling amongst one another, especially up in this top 3, now whittled down to top 2. They're going to be screaming for 4 fresh Goodyear tires. You saw Tate immediately drop to the tail end of the field. He's fallen all the way back into that 14th spot, right behind Grant Warren and Nicky Conti, who has also dropped back with tire wear. I wouldn't be surprised as Corbin Wentz dives down to the inside to avoid the leaders who are side by side. Gunther's got a little bit more tire wear than Crystal, but Bennett fighting hard on the outside. But again, you don't want to fight too hard on this run, as we got back racing here 15 laps ago. So 15 laps on these runs. You got Wentz already coming down. You've got Dorsey, who has fallen dramatically off the pace, and all these guys running mostly in the 24-25 range. And fastest lap was a 24.12. Gunther the last time by running a 24.83. And the pace has dropped off significantly for a couple of other drivers. Bennett has ran a 25.12 that last time by. Stolworthy's down to the 25 range. Most of these guys, Emi Schizato, probably the fastest car on track right now, a 24.7. Actually, that's Nick Gunther, who ran a 24.7 flat. But now he's dropped back a couple more hundredths. Dropped down maybe a 10th that last time by. He did drop down a 10th. But it's Nick Gunther who's got a 1 second lead, just about on the 84 of Bennett. And Hyde starting to rail her way back in here as we approach the midway point through tonight's race. Glad to have everybody aboard once again for tonight's coverage of race number 8 of the season of the Fuel Grand National Series. The SRI Performance 100, Trey Wright on the call for the North American Sim Racing Network. With 4 races remaining, excuse me. 3 races, actually. It'll be 3 races remaining after tonight. All of them on vastly different styles of racetracks. Ball high back down to the inside of Bennett. Crystal Bennett starting to feel the tire wear burn a little bit in that 84. Again, these guys are probably going to be going about maybe 40, 45 laps on a full tank of gas. Hyde has been able to push it in practice to a full 50. And now she's got a lot of ground to cover. 2 seconds behind Nick Gunther as he is blazing his way through. As Corbin Wentz continues to drop back, he is just struggling a lot right now in that 88 Ford. RJ Bishop still in that 10th spot for the Warren Wentz Racing Quartet. Grant Warren has fallen back to 13th last time we saw him. There he is in that Coca-Cola number 33 machine. A beautiful looking livery, and just we're talking about him, RJ Bishop noses his car into the inside wall off of turn number 2. He's trying to get that thing refired and reoriented back in the right direction, but a bad race getting even worse for RJ. And he will easily go a lap down, potentially multiple laps down, as he will trundle that Kroger machine to the pit area. He has got a right front tire down by the looks of it. It's been a growing pain season for the Warren Wentz Racing drivers, including their development cars as well, as after that incident, Grant Warren, he's going to be up to 12th, so none of their cars inside the top 10 as of right now. Connor Edwards currently 6 laps down, and Corbin Wentz currently 3, make it 4. As he's actually holding his ground. Crystal Bennett, she has dropped back in the 84 significantly after battling for that opening run. Bishop just now getting down to his pit stall. Gunther continuing to run away with this one up to a 2.2 second lead. So finally figure his way around Corbin Wentz. And the battle is on here for this championship spot between Hyde and Focusato. Top 2 in the championship lead. Hyde starting the season off with 2 wins, but she has cooled down considerably over these last couple of weeks. And, well, it's just she's been a victim of circumstance. You go back these last couple of races. You go back to last week, spun around late in the going at Fuel MP, battle back to finish 2nd. I think she has got a podium every race so far. It's Tate Dorsey now down the pit lane, so everybody that was beating up their rubber early in this run coming down here. Got a couple of cars that have made their 3rd pit stop of the day. We'll have to see when Gunther will inevitably come down for the 3rd time. He's going to stay out this time by. Will Hyde come down? She's running a little bit lower than usual, but not going to come down. Yeah, but you look at these last couple of weeks, for Apollo Hyde, and the month of March was certainly not one she wanted, and she's trying to find an avenue around the 88 and the 7. Corbin, he's trying to come down the pit lane. He's very tight. That's right in front of Focusato, who's trying to split the gap. Trek Togger nearly spin coming down the pit area. And how about Focusato splitting the gap between the wall and the 88, but now with RJ Bishop on these fresher tires, we'll have to see what laps he's been able to run here. He's currently 3 laps down, but he ran a 25.6 on his out lap, and he's just getting warmed up. Compass down the pit area. Blake Warren is still serving whatever penalty he had to serve. And I'm a little bit surprised about that, but now the gap has increased to 2.25 between the 55 and the 100. One car loose. It's Wentz off of turn 2. Single car spin for the time being. No, it is not. Yellow flag is out. And that was right as green flag pit stops were about to commence. As Nick Gunther, who has led 33 laps so far tonight, will end this about 20-lap run. This 30-lap run here, as the caution flag has come out for the 3rd time this evening at the Rockingham Speedway, and everybody who is screaming to come down the pit lane will be able to do so without losing significant track position That's going to really jumble things up. It looks like Tyler Stallhood is going to get the free pass. And here we go, down on pit lane. Just past the halfway point in tonight's race. 52 down, 48 to go here at Rockingham, and Gunther will go into his pit stall. We expect these guys to come down at least one more time in this race with 48 to go. This race goes caution-free. That last pit stop within the 20 to 15 laps to go range is certainly going to be something special. Good pit stop for the 55, but an even better pit stop for Apollo. Doesn't look like she beat the 55 off of the pit lane. Another so close race off the pit area between the top two drivers, and Gunther is going to retain that top spot for the time being. We'll take a look at what happened, and if Corbin Wentz got any sort of help off of turn number 2. Went up the racetrack. He got Stallhood underneath of him, and I think came back down up the track. Just a little tap there from Tyler, and that was enough to be a multi-car incident to put us under the caution flag once again. So not the greatest of days for Corbin, and that certainly didn't help him out there. And we'll get another look at it here before going back to the choose cone. Little tap there from Jeff Gordon, noses that Ford Mustang into the inside wall to bring out the yellow flag. And that will re-rack the field with fresher tires. And we had, of course, a couple of cars stay out. We got a lap led. I think RJ is looking to get another lap back here. See if he'll take the wave around once again, but we'll see who else will take the wave around, as he had a couple of cars who had jumped everybody on strategy. RJ is going to take the wave around. Same thing with Trek, who was 2 laps down in the cycle, as will Connor Edwards and Tate Dorsey. Crystal Bennett was back on the lead lap. She finds herself back in 13th with a little bit older tires than everybody else. And we'll bring the top 2 back out here amongst themselves. It'll be 45 laps to go here at the Rockingham Speedway, past the halfway point. Focusato getting his tires a little bit warmed up here as the pole sitter, but Nick Gunther has been the dominant car of the day. This next time around, he will lead 38 of 55 laps completed. After this, there will only be a handful of cars that will be a lap down, as Tyler Stallhood, Tate Dorsey, I believe, should be back on the lead lap after all of this nonsense. Pace car back down the pit lane, and here we go. 45 laps to go in the SRI Performance 100. Gunther leads them back to the restart zone. Green flag out in the air, and a much better restart there for Hyde. But just that inside lane off of the start has been just a thing of beauty for Gunther, and he is clear for the race lead. Ooh, we got the 4 and the 37 nearly getting together. That was Fast and Focusato. Those two nearly playing bumper cars off the corner. How about Rich Roy up inside the top 10 for the opening time tonight? He is on fresh rubber. He is in a pretty good spot, trying to run in the line of his teammate right now, right off of this restart. Stolworthy behind him with like a hawk. William Autosport all running inside the top 10 right now, with Durbin inside the top 5. Got another car stalled. I believe that is Connor Edwards, and it will. Edwards looks like he might be calling it a night. And that'll be a tough break for him. But now Hyde still right behind this 55 car, and you got Tala Aziz back in 3rd, keeping these two honest here for the top spot. Although just looking for one mistake out of this 55, just a little bit of a twitch, a wiggle, anything. But Gunther has been on rails so far this evening. Again, coming over from the Maverick Racing League. Everything that happened earlier on the season with Yisha, who shall not be named, in the Atlanta race. Gunther's doing really well for himself out here, and Hyde did not have a good apex going through 3 and 4. She's going to lose just a little bit of time going back down the front straightaway, but everybody pretty much single file. Just we say that, Emmy's going to poke out a line. Up the racetrack she goes, Fast trying to quickly take that position down the lower line. Emmy trying to get back there, and she'll file back in between the 4 and the 37. Focusato tapping the brakes there a little bit, giving that 97 car enough room to get back in there. Gunther continues to lead the way, 43 laps led, 40 to go. Drew Fast still with the fastest lap of the night, with 24.14. Second lap time, 40 to go at the Rock. By the looks of it, Nick Gunter has been the man to beat all tonight, but Apollo Hyde has not let him out of the gun sights just yet. Again, you go back to these last couple of races like we're talking about before that third caution came out. Second at Fuel MP, I believe third, if I'm not mistaken, at the Daytona back straightaway. Another second place finish, I believe, at Las Vegas. Hanford, she was second as well. Second at the Pensacola Roval, and she won the season openers at Atlanta, or Under Armour, the second race of the season at Atlanta. So ever since February 25th, she has not won a race since February 18th. It's really just been slum of the season there for Hyde, but you got a couple of comeback wins from Don LaPrade. Got that win from RJ Bishop. You got Focusato finally getting his first win at the Grand National level since Daytona last year. And he had Tyler Stallhood winning on fuel mileage at the Roval, or the Pensacola Roval. And now I got Nick Gunter here at Rockingham dominating his way through. It's been a much more evenly spread field in terms of wins, but of course Don LaPrade not in the grid tonight. Grant Warren, who's up inside the top 10 in points, he might not be after this evening, spinning off of turn 4. No caution. We will remain green for the time being, coming around to 35 to go, but bad night getting worse for that Coca-Cola 33 machine. But again, the only... Actually, we have had 2 multi-time winners. We had Don LaPrade winning twice, but Focusato hasn't been as consistent as he would like to be. Again, he's only 90 points back of the 100 in the championship fight, but again, that's gonna go up to triple digits the way things run right now, with Focusato back in that 7th spot. And of course Hyde has been the perennial runner-up driver for the majority of this race. Again, she hasn't led any laps tonight. Gunther has led 48. He had Grant Warren, who led a lap based on pit strategy. Same thing with Trek Talker, who stayed out. And of course, RJ Bishop, who's still 2 laps down, back in 16th. He led the opening 8 laps of the race before a self-spin. It's really taken him out of contention late in the going. Aziz is backed off down to 4th, and Ike Durbin will round out the top 5, but Drew Fast up inside the podium. Something we have noted about Drew Fast over these last couple of races, that he's always been up towards the front early on in these runs, coming off for a pit stop, and that's because he just runs a little too aggressive to where his depth is at. Seen it a lot last season. We saw it at Michigan in particular, and a couple other tracks. But he's been running pretty well right now. That was a big fishtail by the 14 going into 3. Just jumped on the brakes a little too hard. Good save, and that'll allow Fast to creep back in to make this a 3-horse race, just as we say that. Taps the outside wall just a little bit. Tate Dorsey on the outside. I think Dorsey might be, oh boy, as he's banging in the outside wall. A little too rock hard here at Rockingham, Tate. He's trying to let everybody just jump down below him to keep this race clean and green. He'll bump off the outside wall. One more for good measure, as now Fast is going to go underneath of Hyde. Apollo's going to be looking for the crossover. Down right behind the 4. We'll follow along with these guys here on the helicopter cam for a brief moment. Apollo is just going to drop back and allow Drew to just use up a little bit more of his stuff. Fast up to second. I know he wants to get a lap led here tonight. Gunther has just been so dominant on this run. He's locked up the most laps led bonus, so that'll be a couple of points in his piggy bank. Of course, here in race number 8, it's not going to mean a whole lot. But like we were talking about with Tate Dorsey, you know, these guys, especially Drew Fast, running up a little bit more out of their depth here when it comes to being aggressive. I know that he's going to be counting for a caution, and again, these guys, everybody's going to have to pit one more time. But the name of the game, like we saw with Apollo Hyde, is she's got a nice run on the back end of this 4 Camaro. We saw it in Atlanta for Sportsman back on Friday night. It's all about when you pit, and Apollo Hyde thought she had picked out a relatively decent strategy, and it nearly worked when Dunlop Prod accidentally shifted his car to reverse coming down the pit area, but he was able to drive that 74 car from a near 9-second gap with 18 laps to go to the win based on tire strategy. So I think Apollo at a track where, you know, tire wear is going to mean everything, I think she's just trying to stay out as much as possible and trying to conserve as much wear on the tread as you can. Because again, we got this race restarted. What was it, 45 to go? As up on the outside wall is Corbin Wentz. He is out of the groove. Is that a caution? It is not. And Hyde has gotten around Drew Fast, but I think he might be starting to fall off a little bit of a cliff here. But like we were saying, with 25 to go, everybody still has to come down at least one more time. I think Apollo might be able to stretch it. I think that might be the strategy here, just trying to stretch it as long as you can. Again, she was able to make it about 52 laps in practice on a full tank of gas. 24 to go. We'll have to see all these guys punching in the clutch. Blake Warren has, you know, moved a little bit in the 12th machine. Still not sure what the issue is, why he was given the black flag. As Corbin Wentz has officially called it a night. He will finish in the 18th spot with Blake Warren down in 20th. And Bud Kerrang, I believe, will get a 21st provisional after DNSing. But now the gap down to beneath a second for one of the opening times here in this run is Hyde. Actually, she's close to half a second behind Gunther, so she's certainly got about 0.2 of a second more speed on the 55. It'll be 22 to go. He's going to catch up to lap traffic. We got Grant. Grant is just going to get out of the way of this 55. Same with the 100. Connor Edwards back out on track, trying to log a little more laps here. He is 12 laps down. I think if he's just able to get ahead of Wentz, he might try and call it a night. Drew Fast, he has fallen off a lot. He's down the pit lane. Same thing with Crystal Bennett. And here we go. This might bring everybody down. Bennett taking 4 tires. Fast is going to be out and away for his final stop of the night. And this will be the money stop more than likely if this race goes caution-free for the next 20 laps. Which, granted, you know, in theory, you think it would, but I don't know. We've seen stranger things before. We had a caution during that opening green lap sequence. I think we had another car go around in the back. We'll see just how faster these guys are able to put down times. And how about this? R.J. Bishop putting the new fastest lap down, a 23.993. That's the first time we've seen a sub 24-second lap as Trek nearly gets into Bennett. He's going to track way up the racetrack. That's right in front of the 100. It's Togger, who has not made his final pit stop just yet. I don't think there'll be any better time like the present to do so, and that's exactly what he'll do. Togger's going to make his money stop. Stolhood trying to get out of the way of the 55, and Bennett's going to split the duck between the 7 and the 55. She's got fresher rubber, but she is right now 2 laps down. She'll get one of them back. And right now, Gunther spinner off of turn number 2. It's Ike Durbin. Didn't look like he got any help, did he? He did not. He was running in 4th. Doesn't look like he's going to run there anymore as Bishop. He's got a lot of rear end damage in the 48. He's 4 laps down. I believe he was the one that spun once again off of turn number 2 with those fresher tire tracks. And he will come down the pit lane. He will go a couple laps down, and that is such a shame. He has got a left front down by the looks of it. Tough break for Durbin. Been a tough break for the fuel admins here tonight as 2/3 of them have gone around. Edwards up to 18th. He has been down the pit lane for his final time tonight. He's been in the pit 7 times this evening. So he's got a little bit fresher rubber than everybody else. Kenny Campos back down to make his final pit stop and hide into the outside wall. And now Vincenzo Focusato and Apollo Hyde nose to tail with 15 laps remaining at Rockingham. And we're just going to see how much Vincenzo Focusato is sliding around here through the corners. I can't hear anything there. When will these guys come down? They're just going to try and stretch as long as they can. Because right now, you've got the top 7 who have not made their final pit stop of the night just yet. It's actually Tyler Stallhood, who is 2 laps down. He is not coming just yet. But now we got a really good battle cooking here for second place between Hyde and Focusato. Focusato right on the bumper of that 100. Here he comes to the inside. And Hyde just going to let that 37 car on by. Does she look for the crossover, or is she just trying to save a little bit more tread on the tire? 12 to go this next time around. Ooh, very, very, very slow for the 100. We got a lot of different cars on varying strategies. Schizato, she's not come down the pit lane for the final time yet. And I think everybody in the top 7 might be trying to stretch it as long as they can, trying to catch a quick caution. Gunther has dropped down at 25.6. As Drew Fast setting the fastest lap of 23.86. How about that for Fast? Mr. Fast Lap himself, and you can hear Gunther absolutely just kind of wobbling it around the track right now. 25.7 that last time by. You can hear him going through the corners here. Trying to punch in the clutch a little bit. Fast moving on the outside of the 100. 10 laps to go, I should say, for Nick Gunther. And the pace has dropped off dramatically for these leaders at 25.8 that last time by for Gunther. And I imagine it's probably going to be in the ballpark of about 25.9 or maybe even 26 for Gunther, but Focusato running at that same pace. Same thing with Hyde. 9 to go. I think these guys might be trying to stretch it out to the end here. I just don't know if that's really going to work for these guys trying to make it a 3-stop race. I think Gunther's not racing for anything right now. He's just, he's very loose. The yellow flag has flown. That is not good. Tyler Stallhood on his lid, and with 8 laps to go, the leaders catch the caution they were looking for, and that's going to be the end of the night for the Rainbow Warrior. Well, that's not good. I think that is about as obvious of a multi as you can ask for. And Taylor Stallworthy, I think, is going to get the wave around here. And here we go. This is the money stop for these drivers. And you know, this might play in the wheelhouse of Crystal. I don't know if it's going to play in the wheelhouse of Crystal Bennett really that much, but This is the true money stop with 8 laps to go. We're going to get this restarted with 6 to go. And that is really where we're going to see all the aggressiveness kick off here in that final lap before the point of no return. But Gunther in a perfect pit entry. Hyde right behind Focusado. And we're going to see, does anybody try and take 2 tires? You would have to be suicidal to take 2 tires. You would have to be a madman. And everybody's going to take 4 tires, a little bit faster on the stop there for the 100. Gunther out and away first. Focusado is going to beat out Hyde based on that #1 pit stall. And here we go. We might actually get this race restarted with exactly 5 laps to go here. But before we get underway, well, we'll take a look and see what turned Tyler Stolhood upside down for the 2nd time this season. Oh, that looks nice. Pretty much the same thing that happened with Gunther that last lap around. Hit the outside wall, nowhere for Nicky Conti to go, and netcodes that 7 car up onto its lid. And that is, that's not what you want typically there for a driver going upside down, and he is just continues to be upside down. That is not ideal, in a word. We'll take a look here on the onboard with Conti. And then we'll get you guys back to the restart here. Stolhood going around and wha-bam. Not what you want. Doesn't look like there's going to be terminal damage on that 85 car, and just try to turn him upside down once again. But here is Le Shot. Here in just a moment or so, as everybody's going to get the wave around. Here's the shot once again. You got Nick Gunther, who has led 78 laps tonight. He's going to be the race leader. Apollo Hyde is going to be on the outside of row #1. Actually, so it looks like she did get that outside lane. Actually, no, Focusado did beat Hyde off of the pit lane, but Hyde is going to be on the outside. You got Taylor Stolworthy, who's up inside 4th, and you got Tyler Stolhood. Is Tyler Stolhood still going to be? And he's 3 laps down, so they might, I don't know if they're going to re-rack the field here, but it's going to be 4 laps to go when we get to the line. A 4-mile sprint to decide race number 8 of the season. Can Nick Gunther get a great enough restart here to try to get a win, or can Apollo Hyde finally put that orange juice car in victory lane here tonight? We're about to find out. Pace cars down the pit lane for the final time tonight. Gunther, Focusado, Hyde, Aziz Cazzato, your top 5. Green flag out in the air. An even restart for both the 100 and the 55, but Nick Gunther putting the hammer down on the inside. Again, Apollo, you are fighting as hard as you can on the outside. You know that you are able to utilize your rubber as much as you can. They're door-to-door going through 3 and 4. Still side by side. Gunther's got the ledge. He's going to clear off of turn 4. Now how about Stolworthy, and how about Hyde with the crossover? Now she's got the inside lane with 3 to go. Not able to get the inside ledge on the 55. Stolworthy now in a spot. If these two get together to clean up the scraps, Gunther in the outside wall a little bit. That's exactly what Apollo wants to see. 2 to go this next time by. We had 1 car go around. It was Blake Warren. Sticks high in the air. 2 laps to go. A little bit of a bobble out of both the 55 and the 100. 2 miles remain here at Rockingham, and Apollo Hyde throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at Nick Gunther. Good battle between Focusado and Stolworthy for that final podium spot back in here. Gunther starting to pull away a little bit from the 100. Coming off turn number 4 for the penultimate time. White flag in the air. 1 more time around the Rockingham Speedway. Nick Gunther's led 82 laps so far tonight. He just needs to win 1 more, and he'll bat 1,000 in the Fuel Grand National Series down the back straightaway for the final time tonight. What a drive and what a debut in the Sandhills of North Carolina, as off the final corner, 1 for 1, the 55, the double nickel with a dime of a race. Nick Gunther, your winner of the SRI Performance 400. "83 laps led of the 99 tonight." Taylor Stolworthy able to edge out Vincenzo Focusato for that third spot, and once again, Apollo Hyde a little bit short. This week is 0.4 of a second that she was missing, and she will look ahead to the Alley Raceway this Friday night to try to end that losing skid. But for Nick Gunther, how about that? First win in his first race. He is going to burn it down here at the Rockingham Speedway. That SPS Mazda. How about Mazda getting their second consecutive win? Got it last week with Vincenzo Focusato. Get it here tonight with 5 of Nick Gunther. Going to victory lane, and about as fitting as you can ask for. A Polish victory lap on the 34th anniversary, the 34th anniversary of Alan Kulwicki's passing here tonight on April 1st, 1993. The 33rd anniversary, I should say, of Alan Kulwicki's passing. A very fitting Polish victory lap for Nick Gunther. A wave to the fans. And he will bring it back down to the front straightaway. Might do a couple more burnouts here to kick things off, or he might just bring it back down into the pit area. That's exactly what he'll do. He'll try to find victory lane. Unfortunately, there's none here on the Papyrus version of the Rockingham Speedway, but what a drive. And we knew that he was going to be fast here tonight, but he was absolutely blitzing fast here this evening. Taking a look at your official standings. Nick Gunther and Apollo Hyde going bar for bar on that final restart. And Gunther is going to get the second spot there, or Apollo Hyde is going to get that second spot there. Taylor Stolworthy will be the first driver in the podium that we'll hear in just a couple of moments. Vincenzo Focusato and Tala Aziz rounded out the top 5 here after a fun race once again here in the Fuel Grand National Series. Glad to have both series back here, with both sportsmen giving us a gem of a race Friday night, and Grand National saying, you know what, sportsmen can't hog all of the spotlight. We've got to get a little bit of loving to ourselves as well. But we'll be back here in just a couple of moments as we get the post-race interviews up and going here in just a couple of moments. But we'll hear from your podium of Nick Gunther, Apollo Hyde, and Taylor Stolworthy here in just a couple of moments on tonight's coverage of the Fuel Grand National Series here on the North American Sim Racing Network.
double shot is out!
Well, the Rockingham Speedway never disappoints, and it certainly didn't disappoint tonight. A dominating victory on one end of the spectrum by Nick Gunther, but an absolutely perfect race here to watch at home. We'll get into the post-race interviews here for the SRI Performance 100 from the Rockingham Speedway in just a couple of moments here on the NASRN. But what a race, what a battle, and what a final restart that we had. And we had a couple of different battles back in there. At the end of that race,
User was moved
starting
to your
off
channel.
with the winner of the battle for third, but right out there at the end between the 37 and the 1, driver of that number 1 Texaco Havoline Dodge Charger. We got Taylor Stolworthy, the Fuel Super Speedway Series champion. You got a copy of us in the broadcast booth?
Yes, I do.
Well, you certainly were up and down throughout the lineup here tonight, but going into this race here at Rockingham, everybody knows the score. It's high banked, it's high tire wear, and grip is going to be a commodity. How does that really factor into how you really set up the cars in terms for addressing how much aggressiveness on the wear there is here at the Rock?
Yeah, it was all just about taking it easy. I messed up in quali. I spun, and that's why I was down at the rear of the field. I had the slowest quali time because my lone quali lap was me limping with a super damaged car around, so I knew I wasn't going to be fighting up for the top 5 on pure pace alone. It had to be via strategy. So after I cruised up through the field at the start, it was just waiting. It was just keeping the tires as cold as I can, and for both of the long stints, that really worked out. On the penultimate stint, I had a feeling I could get to the end without a yellow, but my front right was also red, so it was a bit of a blessing that it did come out and bail me out a little bit. But I'm really happy with how I managed the tires, because I've never usually been that good at tire management, but it was the approach that I knew I had to take into this race. Otherwise, tires would be dying, and it worked out brilliantly.
Yeah, tire management is always such a tough issue for a lot of drivers. We saw a lot of comers and goers towards the beginning of these runs, but you were certainly a driver that was more really coming than really going, especially towards the tail end of these runs. So it really shows just how well versed you are at tire wear. But, you know, a track like Rockingham, you got to set up your car 2 different ways. And overall, you know, what was your really thoughts on the race here tonight based on how everybody was really running, and then that final caution at the end? What were your thoughts on that final restart in that battle with Focusato?
I'm a little surprised that it was actually clean for as long as it was. I know we've had some really good clean races, but this felt like a track that there would be some more errors at, but I think a lot of other people had that, hey, I gotta be careful mindset in terms of racing with other people up until like the final few laps. So naturally, I was a little surprised to see not too many cautions, a lot of single car spins, but once it came to that final stint, it was just, yeah, I'm just burning up these tires because I don't have to manage them. I felt like Rock Lee out of Naruto, just ditching the training weights. And, you know, I saw 4 people go to the inside, and I literally just, like, my eyes lit up. I knew I could fight for P3. I thought I could even fight for the win, because I knew realistically I could keep up with Nick and Apollo somewhat at my fastest. That wasn't on the cards. Those two were just a class, like, a class above the rest, a tier above the rest. What a race, and a great finish for those two. But I just knew that once hit that final yellow, I'm like, okay, I can really get something going.
Well, you definitely were, especially in that final run there at the end you had there with Vin. But looking ahead to next week at the Land of Legends Raceway, you know, last week you were able to finish 3rd after a while ending on the dirt at Field Motorsports Park. We're right back onto the dirt next week. What are you really expecting? What are you really excited for next week at Land of Legends?
I need to see how the track feels, because, you know, I had a really good dirt race that last time, like you mentioned, but it's also a style of driving that I'm a lot less familiar with, so it could go more like Daytona, where I'm not feeling comfortable in the car and I'm down at the rear of the field, or it could be like tonight where or like the previous dirt race. So I'm kind of excited to see what comes up with it, and based on how fun that last dirt race was, I'm certain it's going to be a blast.
Well, just looking at it based on face value on some NR2003 videos, it certainly looks a lot like Fuel MP in terms of Actually, it looks nothing like Fuel MP. There's quite a bit of banking up towards the cushion, and there's no wall on the back straightaway. So that's bound to be fun for next week's race at Land of Legends at Canandaigua. But Taylor, you know the score here, being in the podium. So we're going to give you the floor to thank anybody you want. If there's anybody you want to shout here on the NASRN airwaves, the floor is yours for our third place finisher.
Yeah, first, just want to thank Marvelous Racing. Want to thank Paulo for opening that final line on the restart. We both really clicked it into gear and were able to move up to 2 and 3. And congrats as well for Nick taking the checkered flag first ever race and completely drove the heck out of the car. Very impressive, and looking forward to some more battles with them on track. Also want to shout out other rivals, Vincenzo, Nicky had some good battling there throughout the race too, and looking forward to next week. Oh, and actually shout out Blake Warren for the scheme. The scheme I'm running was one created by him for these fun throwback events. So it was fun to bring this one first out to Atlanta when it died, but then out to this track where it survived.
Well, definitely was all about survival here tonight, and that scheme surviving for a nice third place run here tonight. Taylor, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week at Land of Legends.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your channel.
Taylor Stolworthy, driver of the Texaco Javelin #1 Dodge Charger for Marvelous Racing. And we'll go up to the boss lady for Marvelous Racing.
User was
driver of
moved to
that
your
number
channel.
100% orange juice. Subaru Apollo Hyde, you got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
Yes, I do.
Well, it seems like the last couple of weeks have really been same song, X verse. And I think for the third or fourth consecutive race here in our second place spot here for the post-race interviews. But coming into Rockingham, we're talking a little bit setup-wise with Taylor Stolworthy going into this race, with the high tire wear that these guys are going to experience from a driver that we definitely know how well versed you are with setups. You give the base setups to pretty much everybody coming into these races. How do you really set up a car for the high banks and the high tire aggressiveness that is Rockingham?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Trey. You don't. There's really no good way to set up for it. The best that you can do is just cope. A lot of it has a lot more to do with driver than it is setup. I could tell you that I'm somebody that really drives the car hard off of the rear tires. It's a bad habit of mine, and this is a track that will eat your right rear tire directly off. So I typically run a very, very tight race car here. And typically what that means is that I'm just terrible on short runs. I'm just not able to compete on short runs. But on the longer runs, usually it'll play out. But on our one long run of the race, we still managed to smoke up our rear tires pretty bad, and we ended up getting swallowed up there by Vincenzo for third. I was preparing pretty much to finish in third there. I figured that was a pretty good showing. I would have been pretty happy with that, but we got that last yellow, and I was kind of given a second life, and I didn't miss.
And you were able to at least get ahead of Vincenzo, and who slept back down to third, so it's a little more ledge in the championship that you'll get over him. But looking ahead of this championship battle here over these next 3 weeks, you've got three different, very vastly different types of tracks. You've got Land of Legends at Canandaigua next week, back on the dirt. You got Kansas, which is, your run-of-the-mill, middle intermediate, and then we go back across the pond to Autodrome de Paris for the season finale. So 3 races, 3 different tracks. What are you looking forward to over this next 3-week run of races here to complete season 8?
Pretty much what we just need to do is minimize our mistakes. We just need to not make mistakes. That's what unfortunately did us in at Fuel Motorsport Park, and I feel like if we minimize our mistakes at Canandaigua, we should be able to finally get our number 100 car back into victory lane. I would love to see that. Kansas and Paris are going to be 2 tracks that are probably not going to be up our alley. We're not necessarily even considering being in the podium in either of those races. We're probably just going to be chilling. So we're just happy to have the pretty big points lead here, and we just don't need to fumble it.
Well, certainly, like you said, just trying to run mistake-free at these next couple of races. But before we'll let you give the spotlight, we do notice that, ever since you started running this 100 scheme for Orange Juice, you've been 0 for probably the last 6 races. So, any thoughts of changing up schemes going into Canandaigua next week, or are we just going to let it ride Zoidberg style?
Well, Canandaigua is going to be a night race, so we're going to be running the Pepsi scheme at Canandaigua.
Well, it's certainly going to pop onto the lights at Canandaigua next week. But Apollo, you know the score a lot by now, fairly well by now, I would say. We'll give you the floor to shout out anybody you want here on the NESRN. If there's any sponsors you want to thank, the floor is yours once again.
Of course. So I get to talk about Sportsman again. We are going to be at the very famous track in Reading, Pennsylvania, the Alley Raceway, for the first time in NR2003, I think, ever. I cannot wait for that race. It's going to be terrifying because it's a very narrow racetrack. It's a 3/4 of a mile bull ring. Very sharp corners, very similar to Martinsville. Even though it's a narrow track, there's going to be a lot of passing opportunities, and it's really going to be a race where you're just going to have to take your time and make sure to not use up your brakes too much to get to the end and try to win that. So Sportsman's going to be awesome. Friday night, 9 o'clock is when server goes up. 10 o'clock is when we qualify. If you want to show up, that's great as well. I would love to see as many people as we can get there at the Alley Race. So it's going to be a fun race.
It definitely is, and I'm looking. I might have a schedule conflict that night that might push things back to a tape delay on Monday, on Easter Monday. But we'll try and figure out things then. I'll probably give you a little bit of a word over on my end side of things. But highly recommended both the race on Friday night, both the broadcast and the racing series. Of course, link for the Fuel Racing League down in the description box below. Highly recommend Apollo's Fuel Sportsman Series. Already put on one hell of a race a week ago at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the 2005 version of Atlanta. That great battle between you and Dunlop there at the end, and the Alley. It's gonna be Martinsville with a big ass right turn in the middle. It's gonna be so much fun. But Apollo, thank you so much for coming on here for the post-race interviews, and we'll see you next week at Canandaigua, trying to end that winless streak here going into the new month of April.
That's what we're going to try to do.
User was moved out
that was
of
Apollo
your channel.
Hyde, driver of the number 100% Orange Juice Mazda from Marvelous Racing. I think it's finally time to bring in the man of the hour. The last hour and a half or so far, an absolute butt whooping by the double nickel car, running a dime of a race, driver the number 55, Nick Gunther. You got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, and glad to have you here. You know what? 1 for 1, batting 1,000. We saw the Washington Nationals player Joey Wiemer do that to start this season over in the MLB side of things. But here in race car land, you don't really typically see that happen a lot. Of course, Shane Van Gisbergen, but going 1 for 1 in your Fuel GN career, congratulations first and foremost on a dominating win tonight.
First off, thank you, and secondly, go Phils. Always go Phils. Philadelphia is where I'm from, so I'm gonna go cheer on my Phils every time. And yeah, I mean it was a really fun race tonight. I was really trying my best not to on that last run really make sure I don't kill the rear tires. I have a toxic relationship with this track, so it's either I do well, or the rear tires decide to say, nah, you're done, and I just go spinning right around. So I was really, really taking it easy there on the last long run of the race.
Yeah, and of course, with that final 4-lap stint there at the end, it looked like everybody was trying to stay out as long as they could, just trying to play the fuel strategy game. We know that Taylor Stolworthy, his tires were pretty much the entire right side of his car tires were pretty much in the red during that last run. And then Tyler Stallhood goes upside down, and the entire complexion of this race changes. You know, walk us through that final restart on the last lap with 4 to go. You've got Apollo Hyde with a very tight race car on the outside, and you just drove away from everybody. Just walk us through that final restart.
I was genuinely nervous about that, really, because I was really not hoping for a short run at all, because my car kept bottoming out if I wanted to do a short run. It was so bad on the bottoming out. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to put any tape on it, because if I do, it's gonna bottom out even more in the front, because that's what happened to me during qualifying. Like, I put the grill tape to 80, and it was bottoming out like crazy on the front end. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that then. I might be hosed on that front. So I said no to the tape. I didn't even change anything with the car all day. It was great. It was pretty much good to go. I made like 1 or 2 changes without the setup for the entirety of the practice session with the rear springs. Really, that's pretty much what, like, all I've really done. Yeah, with that restart though, I had a feeling that he was better, especially in qualifying. Anyway, he was really good in qualifying. So I was like, oh boy, okay. So he's gonna tape his stuff all the way up, and he's gonna be able to drive through the corners a little bit better than I am. So I had to make sure I I parked the bus on the bottom. So that's exactly what I did. I just kept parking on the bus on the bottom. It's like as soon as I got cleared, like, okay, that's good. I was gonna be able to keep doing that. And I was like, I had a little bit of a scare. Though. I think like 2 or 3 laps ago. Anyway, I had a little bit of scare, but once I saw him go up the racetrack a little bit, I was like, yeah, I just gotta be careful. I just gotta manage it now.
Well, you certainly managed things all the way out, and you happen to lead 83 laps in the process as well. But, you're coming over from the Maverick side of things over to the Fuel Racing League, and how do the two leagues, the competition level of both leagues, really compare to one another?
This league has braid cells.
I can't argue with that.
I mean, I can't say nothing about like Jack or Josh or Keith, because those guys like were the only few people. I mean, I definitely like have like 100% respect for. There's like a lot of people there that have some braid cells. It's just the other ones that kind of ruin the fun for everybody or anything like that. You just can't get any runs or whatever. They kind of know who they are anyway. But yeah, honestly, I had a lot of fun with little green flag runs. I was actually like, wait, I actually have a green flag run here in this series. Sweet.
Yeah, the level of competition has been increasing so much in this season, and really just this last year alone. Back when I started streaming these races all the way back in July, which to think about, that was almost a year ago at this point, to up until tonight, running a 4-caution race at Rockingham, where the 4 cautions there weren't for anything really that stupid. It was just natural cautions that happened to progress. Things have really gotten so well here over this last year. The talent level has really progressed, and we're glad to have you kicking ass and taking names here tonight, Nick.
I mean, no problem. I was actually legitimately impressed. I was actually looking back on those cautions. I was like, I don't think anybody's really done anything stupid in a way. So I'm like, yeah, this is really good. Like for these guys, they should be commendable about themselves. It's just I think their car's handling just caught up to them, and they just unfortunately went around.
Yeah, Rockingham is such a very technical track to work with, but looking ahead to next week at Canandaigua, the banked dirt track that we're going to for the second time on dirt here this season. We'll first and foremost looking to see you back here on the circuit next week, and are you looking forward to it?
Your microphone just kind of like went like away from your mouth or something there. I think you said something about the dirt track for next week.
We're going to Canandaigua next week. I was just wondering if you were going to be, if you were excited about it, and hopefully we'll see you on the schedule.
I mean, I'm going to be running a dirt races doubleheader on Friday, so I might be just conclude my little dirt like week, I guess you could say, for this league here. Why not?
Well, definitely.
I might.
We'll definitely hope to see you next Wednesday, and the bigger the field, the better it will be. But Nick, since your first time with a post-race interview, what we do here after the post-race interview is concluded, we'll give you the floor to thank as much people as you want for as long as you want. If there's any sponsors you want to thank, anybody you want to shout out here on the NASRN airwaves. For the first time, a first-time winner once again this season, Nick Gunther, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, first off, I want to say thank you to RJ for bringing me into like giving me an idea to come to race this league. And I was like, I just saw Rockingham, so I'm like, maybe Tyler Stallhood welcome me in. Apollo raced me really cleanly today. That's all I remember who I was racing against mainly for the mostly of that race. I'm sorry if I don't remember anybody else. Vincent Francesco, I think he was up there with us for a little bit as well. Excuse me. My partners include, of course, my workplace at Publicis SPS, my agency that I work for, Coca-Cola, Surfside Iced Tea Vodka, Square D, my YouTube channel, MimTheQ77B. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. Of course, Mazda Speed. Of course, I don't really have a team joined for this season anyway. It's kind of just a one-man show with here in the Mazda Motorsport, I guess you could say. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much about it in terms of my partners, of course.
Well, definitely a fantastic race here tonight. You were kicking butt and taking names here this evening, and what a way to win your first race here at a track that you got a up and down, on and off relationship with. But hey, you know what? First win is always special. Nick, congratulations for winning here tonight, and thank you for stopping by post-race.
No problem. Thank you.
User was moved
That
out
was
of
Nick
your
Gunther,
channel.
driver of the number 55 SPS Agency Mazda Mazda getting 2 wins in a row here for the last 2 weeks here of the Fuel Grand National Series slate of things. But he is your winner of the SRI Performance 100 here at the Rockingham Speedway. And that's going to pretty much do it here for tonight's coverage. But overall, another fantastically fun race here in the Fuel Grand National Series. And again, link for the Fuel Discord server down in the description box below. It is always a fun time. We welcome drivers of all different age group or of all different skill bases, whether you're a rookie just plugging in the game for the opening time to a seasoned veteran. We welcome everybody and anybody into these races. They're always a blast, and we highly recommend the Fuel Sportsman Series as well. That race is going to be taking place on Friday night here on the NASRN. Like I was telling Apollo, still not sure about when that broadcast is going to take place, but it will certainly take place at some point. But of course, we go to Canandaigua, the Land of Legends Raceway, next week at on April 8th at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the NASRN. But before we'll get out of Dodge, we'll do a top-down run through all 21 cars that were in the server here tonight. Nick Gunther leads 83 laps en route to a 0.4 of a second win over the 100 of Paul Hyde, who finished in second. Third was Taylor Stolworthy. Fourth was Vincenzo Focusato. Fifth was Tala Aziz. Hemi Schizada was sixth. Crystal Bennett was seventh. Nikki Conti finished in eighth. Rich Roy with a top 10 run in ninth. Drew Fast rounded out the top 10. Kenny Campos was 11th. 12th was Ike Durbin. 13th, Brent Warren. 14th, Tyler Stolhood. 15th was Tate Dorsey. 16th, R.J. Bishop. 17th, Trek Togger. 18th, Connor Edwards. 19th was Corbin Wentz. And 20th was Blake Warren. Bud Kerrang, 21st on a provisional base with the DNS that he had for the 21 cars that were all in the server for tonight's running of the SRI Performance 100 here at the Rockingham Speedway. Kicking off another fantastic race, and we're finally into the final 3-race slate of season number 8. That's going to do it here from the Rockingham Speedway. Congratulations once again to Nick Gunther for winning the SRI Performance 100. Next week, we go to Canandaigua. To the Land of Legends Raceway for race number 9 of season number 8 of the Fuel Grand National Series slate. Of course, airtime at around 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully we don't have the same technical difficulties we had this evening. Right here on your home for the Fuel Grand National Series, the Fuel Sportsman Series, and the Fuel Racing League as a whole, the North American Sim Racing Network. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for tuning in to tonight's broadcast of the Fuel Grand National Series. And on from Rockingham, North Carolina, on behalf of Tyler Stolhood, Apollo Hyde, Ike Durbin, and the entire Fuel Racing League and the North American Sim Racing Network, my name is Trey Wright. Have a great evening, folks. We'll see you next week at the Land of Legends Raceway.